Probably go to a different link while I get
I
bombed
mean, it
off.
doesn't really matter. I didn't.
Oh dear Lord, that's scary.
Oh my God. I didn't
It's
think he
like
was coming.
what's the opposite of Santa Claus? The oh wait,
It says we're live, buddy. You got to kick off the intro for me because I'm gonna
hey,
spread the link.
this is a happy hour, man. I don't even have an intro prepared. So, hey, all right, let's do this. Welcome to the first Everything EOS annual holiday happy hour. I don't know how we're going to do this, Zach. So I hope you have some eggnog, a drink in hand, maybe a little rum. I'm not sure what your cup of tea is here. So add a little splash of something to it. Pack's got his beer ready to go. I love it. Some of us here, we still have a little bit of time left in our day, so we're going to live vicariously through you. As always, remember to smash the like button, join, follow everything EOS on YouTube. That way you know everything that's happening here. And if you have a chance and you're watching live, join in, come on in, have a good time with us. We're here to just spread some cheer, bullshit, and have a good time. So with that said, the host with the most, Mr. Zach Gall, take it away, man.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just set the groundwork here. We have a large list of topics in front of us. Shane and I do at least. We're just gonna have a roundtable discussion here, really big roundtable discussion. You guys can't see it if you're watching this on YouTube, but anyone who doesn't have their camera on, you can't see them on screen. It looks like we've got at least 12 people here on the call. We encourage everyone on the happy hour when you're talking, kick your camera on. If you can't, I guess we'll let that slide. Just don't be a D with what was that called whenever they're doing like the homeschooling and stuff and people would just pop in the Zoom calls? Zoom bomb? We don't want any of that. All right. So I see Ramon's here. Thanks for joining. Matt, I recognize Matt. Let's talk about the news today. So we were we had to pick a day. We said we wanted to do a happy hour. There's been kind of a negative sentiment in the air the last 6 months. A lot of it's warranted, but not all of it. If anyone wants to complain, we're going to give everyone the opportunity to air out their grievances, but there's also a lot of positive things happening. Just today, we had the EOS IO 2.1 drop. We have yet to see the new resource model drop, and we don't know if there's going to be any additional news bundled in with that. So why don't we just kick it off with 2.1? I'm just rambling here. I don't know if anyone in here has had a chance to unpack EOS IO 2.1 yet. Ramon, have you had a chance to take a look at it at all?
Not really. I think 2.0 is doing good already.
It wasn't Eve on here for a second?
Beardy dropped off. He said he was going to be busy today. I think he just dropped off to see his glorious face and popped off.
The no name Sorburka.
Who's that? All right. Well, why don't
I want some.
Man, this is this isn't going to be your typical everything EOS. This might turn into a bit of a shit show, but
how about this, Zach? We go back and we go back to what you first said. There's been a lot of negative sentiment in the community. Let's get it off the chest now before everybody gets really drunk and really starts really getting what's off their chest. There's been a lot of people that have been somewhat abusive lately of Block One. A lot of people have a wide range of emotions. Most of them are associated primarily with bag protection, right? Everybody wants to see the price of EOS go up, and I think we all expected to see a little bit more public support based on historical actions from B1, and with the SEC issue and whatnot, that didn't quite happen like a lot of the community expected. That said, there's not going to be any buybacks, guys. There's not going to be stock transfers. Brendan is not going to be fired and replaced. There's been a lot of pointless rhetoric out there that really is not necessary at this point. Personally, I'm not entirely happy with B1. I've said all along that I wish they'd be a little bit more open with their communication and share. I would love to see some things that they obviously have refused to do, such as timelines and things of that nature. That said, it's a business decision. I'll respect them from that regard. So what do you think, guys? Have we been overly critical of B1, and should we just go ahead and as a community try to look past that and focus on the positives and what the PBE will hopefully bring in the future, which should be some good things at some point in the near future?
I mean, I feel like whenever the EOS New York team was hired by Block One, it was very positive. They were one of the best communicating block producer teams since the Genesis block was produced. So we had these high expectations when they were brought on, but then I think there was like a little bit of a lull from the time that they made their announcement, and then they said they were going to vote, and then it just got quiet. And maybe some of these delays are because of Corona and all of the crazy stuff with the pandemic. But it still to this day seems like Kevin seems a little bit muzzled. What do you think, Cheney? I feel like he wants to say more than he can. I feel like Block One's a big corporation and they're just trying to protect themselves. That's kind of what we've noticed, being overly cautious.
I agree with you, Zach. I think most of the team is probably muzzled, but I think there's a reason that the PBEs in the Caymans versus every other part of Block One. If we'll ever find out what that reason is, hopefully it'll have some impact.
How much your Santa Claus hat keeps popping in and out. It's kind of it's great.
How much different would sentiment be right now, though, if everything else was exactly the same, but we were pamping on EOS? It'd be a completely different story. Everyone would be talking
huge.
Best technology, fastest blockchain, most transactions. A lot of it does have to do with price, but price is kind of an indicator of sentiment. At the same time, it's hard. It's kind of like chicken and egg, but a lot of it is just you always need something to look forward to, and that's where the lack of communication, I feel like, has hurt.
This is my opinion. I'll kind of be the first non-host to chime in here a little bit on this topic, but I think it's two things. Like, it's not just the lack of communication, right, which we all kind of assume is legal / anti-competition kind of strategy stuff, but I think there's also, you can't set up expectations and then kind of not deliver on them. And I think they've done that a little bit. I'm not like a huge critic of Block One. I know they're building, I know they're doing a lot of cool stuff, but like, it's stuff like when Brendan Bloomer tweeted at the beginning of 2020 that like 2020 is going to be an awesome year for EOS IO or EOS, and then we're here like 15 days till the end of the month, or to the end of the year, and I think most of the community would say, I don't know if this was EOS's year. I don't know if that rang true. It's stuff like, what's his name? Not Kevin, but why am I blanking on? Rick. Yeah, Rick's tweet like a month ago now or something. Get ready. Okay, yeah, let's do this. Let's go. And then it's like, oh, so.
But even Eve.
And
Eve was saying a lot of stuff too.
Exactly. And obviously, we know EOS Nation's privy to a lot of stuff that most of us aren't, and so that gets us excited too. And I think it's those things, it's those continual you set up an expectation, and then it's like, oh, nothing. I think it's the combination of that with the lack of communication that I think is just hurting the sentiment. It's even those of us diehards. It's
tough though. I bet, I don't know this for a fact, but I'm assuming when Rick said that, when Eve said that like timelines are so hard to like be concretely defined, that in their mind, get ready meant like this is coming, and then something could have gotten thrown their way or pushed back. And I know that's even happened to me at different times, whenever you think something's ready to go and then it gets started and stopped. And with a giant company like Block One, I can only imagine that the PBE guys are probably frustrated themselves at some of this and some of the time frames. I don't think anyone at Block One would even argue that everything top to bottom has been taking a lot longer than any of us anticipated. That's frustrating.
I think, we touched on this already, but I think the two, big things that, make me kind of want to give Block One, more slack is the regulatory stuff, right? I think we all think that, that whatever their deal was with the SEC, whatever they're working on, they're trying to do, pro-fi, right? Programmable finance, and they're trying to do everything kind of by the book. And I think it does take longer. I think you guys mentioned, Joe brought up some really good points, about like a couple of 3 bills that are like in the process of, being passed or being worked on, that Block One clearly was, supporting, maybe and lobbying for it, and put some resources into getting those bills passed. And maybe that's what's holding some stuff up. And I think the not anti-competition, but I think the competitive advantage, reason is the other reason that I give them a lot of slack, because if you are building something that, you don't want your competitors to get a head start on. And this, let's face it, crypto is filled with a lot of copycat projects, like after, just thinking of synthetics, right? How many different synthetic asset protocols are there out there now, or how many different EOS projects are literally just copycats of something that, was initially run on ETH. There's a lot of that going on, and it goes back and forth. It's not just one direction. And I'm assuming that Block One, is holding some stuff close to the vest because they're putting so many resources into it. They don't want someone to come out with a cheaper version or, an unregulated version that kind of takes the wind out of the sails when they deliver. And that's kind of what I'm banking on, but I don't know if you guys.
Yeah, and when they deliver, they'll probably deliver pretty big, and we'll all forget a lot of this.
I've been on a roller coaster ride, man. One day I'm most bearish as hell. I just don't know what I'm even doing. And then I get an inkling or a crumb of some hint of some stuff that might be coming. And I'm like, holy shit, this is amazing. And I get all fired up again. And I'm sure it's been like that for almost everyone. It's just like all the starting and stopping. Every time you see these get ready tweets, they get you all fired up again, and you start speculating, and then you just wait and wait and wait. Then you feel like an idiot.
Yeah.
I guess let's just let everyone get this stuff off their chest, man. I think this is therapeutic to have these conversations because it's not all bad. We'll get in there. I have a lot of good stuff to talk about, but I think a lot of people's frustration is they feel like they're not being heard. And like we saw, a lot of you guys probably saw like Colin on Telegram or Twitter saying like Brendan's ignoring me, but Brendan's ignoring everybody. That's why I kind of wanted to do this happy hour. Like we're having these conversations almost every day in the Everything EOS Telegram channel and other Telegram channels also. But there's some people from Block One that hang out in Telegrams and maybe lurk. Kevin Rose is in like every channel. We know that. But as far as the rest of Block One, I bet there's a better chance that you could have your voice heard airing like your grievances here than you will in Telegram or yelling at them on Twitter. And that's why we wanted to do this on video too, because it's easy to spin up an alternative account and bitch behind the screen name. But like Cheney and I, like, we're not like sugarcoating our positions. Like I'm not 100% bullish or bearish at the moment. I'm giving the benefit of the doubt, but I'm not hiding behind an alternative account. I am talking as myself. Everyone knows who I am. I've put my time and sweat equity into this. I'm not just doing it anonymously. And I wanted this format to be a way for everyone to kind of get whatever it is off their chest, as long as you could back it up with some good reasoning. And let's just
yeah. So Zach, let me say a few things just to put things in perspective. I'm as disappointed on EOS as a mainnet price, or whatever you can say, community losing interest and those kind of things. I think we have talked enough about it. Let me go back and say what Block One promised is EOS IO. They have been delivering on EOS IO. That's what they have been doing. That's what they sold token on. We can all blame them for not doing enough for mainnet and all that, but EOS IO works. The reason I'm saying that is I'm perhaps one of the most invested here in terms of time, the money we put in, not just my money, my investors' money. Like we have been raising money, developing on EOS. We have done so much in last 2 years. We are still sticking on because there is nothing better in terms of technology. Like if you compare the dApps we can build on EOS IO versus anything else, there's nothing. Literally impossible to build. Then when you talk about Block One not doing enough, I'm with everybody, right? I mean, that's exactly everybody's feeling, and not because they owe us. It's because the same thing which you're talking about. They talked about doing things which they did not follow up with. What Shaheen said, like it's about building kind of hype, you can say, or promises, and which they did not deliver on. More importantly, I think I've been in venture world. We have been involved in so many different money raising, funding, and so on. the disappointment with EOS VCs, I would say, is the biggest one. Not just Block One as a team, but as a like what they did with this commitment that they will invest back into EOS, and that did not show up. Why, if you compare today, somebody like when we as a team, as technical team, we started looking into Polkadot or other stuff, is because we do see there are grants there are money being given to develop. That is such a big thing to build a community, which Block One missed out. There was a huge opportunity there, which they did not, follow up on. They made some huge investments like traditional VCs. The biggest problem with those VCs were they were looking like a traditional VCs. They were not like blockchain VCs. They were not like funding community. They were funding potential revenues which did not play out, and they were like racing against each other on maximum number of users and creating some records of sort, which also did not pan out. So I think that's where I would say the failures are. Having said that, today, like I'm still happy that the EOS IO is still working. But what will you do if the community is not there? And I think that's where the biggest challenge is. Now, another perspective is when Bitcoin came into existence, like all of us came into blockchain because of Bitcoin, right? In some form or other. Satoshi, nobody knows who is. He disappeared. Community still thrived. The code was there. Bitcoin was there. People adopted. Now, let me put that perspective. If EOS IO as a technology is delivering, we don't need anybody or creator of EOS IO if community still sticks around. I think this also is blame should go to community. Like we have been very critical as a community. We have been too idealist. We did not accept staking reward, those kind of things. We started questioning everybody. There was a lot of divisions within the community. I would say that is also to be blamed, not just what happened with Block One. Of course, everything, if Block One had delivered, if we had better funding to the project, all things would have been forgotten. But I think everybody, I don't know whom to blame. When we say community also failed to build on, I would say that is not one person's fault. This is as a community as a whole, which we did not follow through.
The grants, you brought up a good point. Like even with Polkadot, I shared a link in the Everything EOS channel showing all the grants that the Web3 Foundation has dished out over the last 2 years, and it's insane. And not all of them are going to turn a profit, and that's, I think, one of the mistakes from the early EOS VC investments. Some of them don't have anything to do with EOS. Some of them don't have anything to do with blockchain. But from a VC standpoint, maybe they're looking to turn a profit. They are a company after all, and I respect that about them. But it's almost like they didn't take any chances. Projects like Anchor, Scatter, even before that, just infrastructure projects. You look at Ethereum, and Ethereum, the blockchain is slow. It's inefficient, but the difference is that one, the tooling around Ethereum is so much better. And who is funding all of the foundational tooling? MetaMask is funded by Consensus and the Ethereum Foundation. Infura, which runs the majority of the infrastructure on Ethereum for the dApps, also funded by Consensus and Ethereum Foundation. Those are two of the big ones. There's so many other ones. There's media outlets. I know like Block One did a good job with that with Voice, but Voice is still very young and maturing. But creating their own content network probably in the long term might look like a really good idea in hindsight, but it just takes some time. But the difference with Ethereum and EOS right now is that even in Ethereum, as inefficient as some things are, the entire community is like, they have hope that it's going to get better. Like they're always looking forward to the next thing. It's like, yeah, it might be slow now, but it's going to get better. And they look at ETH 2.0 and all the layer twos, and it's that hope. Like you can call it hopium, you can call it whatever you want, but you have to have that positive spin and that feeling in your gut that things are going to get better and you're not wasting your time. And I think the longer things have dragged on in EOS and like certain expectations that many of us had that weren't delivered on, you start to lose that gut feeling that everything's going to be okay. And you kind of need someone to give you a hug sometimes. And Block One hasn't been giving us many hugs, and I feel like I need a hug.
I'd like to add something. I think Pomp said it in one of his podcasts that kind of...
Wait, real quick, Angel. Someone said it in the chat. When everyone talks, like if you haven't spoken yet or you haven't, like, why don't you kick it off with like a quick introduction, like it's just a sentence on who you are.
All right, sure. Angel, I'm just a random dude who found Bitcoin back in like 15, I made like a Dogecoin mining rig to start this whole thing. Then I forgot all about it, got back into it early 17. And you know, I'm into tech. I would program a little here and there. So that's
You're
my background.
a DeFi degen and a
Woo!
Blanco's
Yeah.
millionaire.
Blanco's millionaire. He's got more. Oh,
Look
dude,
out.
I brought my props too, baby.
Can you put that closer to the screen so I can get a better
Damn,
No,
view
you
of
can
the?
take the QR
Mine are already
code
claimed,
because
buddy.
I claimed all of them. See,
Oh man,
ooh, I got the most rare one, other than the one on its way from Rob Finch. You guys
Nice.
know Rob
All right,
Finch.
so I got you off topic, man.
Okay. So I want to agree with Rahman about EOS IO being the greatest, which is why originally I was really excited about Ethereum when it first came out, 14, and they were ICOing. I told everybody I knew about it, like, oh my God, it's gonna change the world, right? So then EOS IO came out, and I realized all the benefits and the technological upgrades to make it faster, whatever. So I'm a tech person. I want what's fastest to be the best or whatever. But Pomp said something in his podcast the other day, and it's like first mover advantage sometimes allows you the time to upgrade, and the lack of community gathering created by B1. I blame them for not like engaging more and creating a more happy community, because I feel like everyone's gripe with EOS is that there's a broken up, terrible community for some reason. But for me, it's like B1 is giving all other blockchains, and the lack of pumping in the price and the lack of support to the community and the funding and all of this is giving other companies the ability to actually upgrade, catch up. So while people are forgetting about EOS, other companies are improving. And 2-3 years from now, they might be just as good, and like, who knows? So it's like, that's my only gripe with it. I've never been like bearish on EOS because it's still far above anything else that I know about that actually has a bunch of dApps out there. But that's all I wanted to mention, is like, we're giving other blockchains that are slower and lesser technologically advanced are giving them an opportunity to upgrade over the next 2-3 years, while EOS is still like stablecoin, you know?
And we're seeing teams just run out of runway. How long? I think we all felt the magic back in 2018. Like leading up to the mainnet launch, there was some like real magic like in the EOS community, and we all felt it. I feel like if you weren't there for that, you wouldn't still be here right now, because it's like that nostalgia of like what you felt whenever things were new and exciting and the hackathons were going on. And it's almost like we all crave for that feeling to come back, and we want it to come back, but we kind of need some help. And I don't know if it's
what about the FUD funding? Is this a real thing? Like,
what FUD funding?
Has there been like evidence that certain other groups or, you know, foundations have been funding some FUD so that people stay away from EOS?
I mean, they don't.
These could just be rumors.
I don't know about FUD campaigns, but it, like, this show, like everything is completely voluntary. Like Cypherglass sponsored it last year.
I think he's pointing to there are some articles by some websites that are certainly slanted, and if you look at who,
but you got to counter that. You can't fight all FUD. You're gonna die trying.
For sure.
You need to fight it with positive news and sentiment, and create your own machine.
Yeah.
Your own like community. That is exactly what the community is for.
Even Bitcoin maximalist FUD Ethereum also, right? That's not new in blockchain community. The FUD has been there since the day one. So I don't think that can be blamed. Like a lot of people, a lot of original Bitcoin maximalists just even today, after Ethereum has proven itself, it's still blaming them for, oh, you are crap, and you know Bitcoin is the best.
That FUD shilling, you know,
but
pump
EOS
and
has
dump.
the most.
These are all like characteristics of blockchain space, and you're not going to avoid that. I don't think there's a ton of value in in that, but I think the big, just the point that I want to make is like, it's the developers, right? I mean, that's where at the end of the day, that's where the buck stops, is attracting developers to build on your platform, regardless of how good or bad your technology is. And I don't know if it was expectations that we all had back in 2018, or even 2019. I helped organize the EOS World Expo event, in 2019, and there was all these great like little projects that were startups that, a lot of them have gone under now. You know, I mean, this is a year and a half later, right? And none of them, some of them didn't get funding. Some of them just, the traction never got there for EOS as a mainnet, you know, and so their projects didn't, you know, get a spotlight. But it's kind of sad to see that, and maybe Block One's, you know, plan changed over time. And originally they were ready, you know, in 2018 for, you know, startups to come out and like, you know, and pitch to the venture, you know, venture funds that they funded or whatever. And then their ideas changed, and they said, you know what, we're going to wait and really come out with, you know, a bunch more stuff that's pro-regulatory.
Okay. So,
in 2021.
Shaheen, I think I see the comments in the chat, and let me add to that. I don't know why we are talking in past tense. I don't know why we are talking in as if it's done and dusted.
It's not.
The fact is, as I said, we are like our team at like in a Blockstar and whatever companies we are working on. Our team has grown 4 times in the last 2 years working on EOS IO. I know I've been talking to so many different people. If you talk to Malta Block and, you know, Michael, he just finished Patreon competitor right now on EOS. When I talk to EOS Sphere, those guys are working with so many different companies in Australia. I'm talking about global, different places, teams who are expanding, working, delivering products right now on EOS IO. And you know what? I am so engaged, and I used to be, at least till last year. Again, I'm at the fault because we started building, and I'm not as engaged with, you know, day-to-day in community. It's very difficult to catch up. But the fact is, when I started talking to these people last month, and I said, okay, let's reach out to each other, what you guys are doing. And I learned that everybody, every developer out there, which I used to be connected to, they're still developing. EOS IO is still growing in terms of the apps. The people have a lot of hope in, and these are all real world applications. These are not your typical crypto stuff. This is real world application using EOS IO or EOS mainnet directly. So it's not that like, and I can say from my personal experience, like we are all complaining and all these things, and let me change the mood and say, like, we are developing more than ever. We are like, you know, and we are getting a lot more interest in terms of development on EOS. So it's nothing to do with the kind of that EOS is in the past. It's actually growing. Mm-hmm. The challenge is we don't have, I think, the community and the like community sentiment and investors. See, EOS token is a speculation thing. It's not reality, right? It means all of these things. Everything is a Ponzi in crypto world. Like there's no real utility. If you put the same metrics as we say value in stock market or something, these tokens are way overpriced. Everything, including Bitcoin or anything, everything is based on community and, you know, how much you're talking about and how much you're hyping it. So the question is, yes, community is very, very disappointed, very, very visible. That's reflecting into token price. I think we have lost a lot of interest because of some big news items, which I think it's, again, we can keep blaming Block One for it, but it's about there was too much hype that did not, like there was no follow-up, and suddenly the kind of interest started dying. But developers, I think maybe 10%, 20% have dropped out. Some of them have actually started developing on Wax, on Telos, and a lot of other blockchains, like we have this Proton. There's so many EOS IO versions, which are now, there are still good developers who are developing on it. The question is, do we have time to follow up? If the token price is not going up, community is losing interest. I think we have lost interest in tracking. If we can build a community around it, and we see the real products being developed and used, EOS is way ahead right now. The fact.
Well, then, I mean, I guess the point is, are we failing to do that as a community, right? As some of the most engaged EOS community members who are showing up for, you know, this everything EOS happy hour, right? Like, we should be sharing stuff about what is EOSphere working on. You know, tell us about the organic products that, you know, you're working on with that company. What we need to be talking about those things, those projects more, because I think that's where some of this, you know, despair comes from, or like the sentiment in the community down, because we're either not hearing about those projects, or we're seeing stuff like, you know, someone shared on the Everything EOS Telegram channel the other day, this like super in-depth research report on like the developer communities in blockchain in general. It was like a 130 slide, you know, report. And in that, like, if you go through like all the way through where it's talking about the different blockchains, and you look at the one for development on different layer ones, like everything like has more developers, you know, or everything is either in line with the developer growth or has more developers like Polkadot and Zilliqa and some of these other like layer ones that they did than they did previously, except for EOS. EOS is like an outlier on that graph to the low side, right? And that either means A, their data and their report is wrong, because what we're saying is that there's stuff going on behind the sidelines, or B, you know, it's accurate and there is like some part of the developer community in EOS that is going down and not up. And like I said, maybe that's a failure on our part to share with each other, right? That there are these projects, that there is stuff going on. I think we all need a little bit of that hope, you know, and not just to be, you know, like on the sidelines or quietly being worked on in the background. I think people need to see that, and we need to kind of shout it from the rooftops if it's happening, right?
So I think layer one development, like the EOS IO, is completely centralized in EOS, right? Means that is one thing we need to understand. Block one delivers, and everybody, like, you know, just has to use it. So you cannot see anything. There is nothing public. There is nothing happening. Can everybody mute, please? Whoever is not talking. Yeah. So I think it's not like EOS IO is not going to be visibly developed, because I don't know anybody who's contributing to EOS IO. Now, the question is, in terms of developers, means when we develop a lot of projects, they don't want to be developing publicly. They are developing in, you know, their own source code. The dApps are not going to share code publicly, so nobody can track that. So I don't think it's fair to say that EOS development is at a, you know, lesser level than others. But yes, the way they have built the open source communities, we should appreciate that. Ethereum is great. Polkadot is doing very well, and that's what is lacking in EOS. EOS is not an open source community, unfortunately. EOS is a Google model where, like, Google develops Android and gives it to phone developers, and they go and implement it. That's what Block One is doing. They are doing EOS IO and saying, and now it's available for you. It's a great platform, and we are improving the quality. Open source is tough. Like, if everybody's contributing openly and building layer one, it's not easy, and that is visible in Ethereum. Look at Ethereum, how slow it moves. Why Block One is efficient in delivering great code? Because they are not doing open source development. They are open sourcing the code which they develop. That is not same as developing in open source. You need to understand the difference. It's not being developed. It's not being developed as open source. It's being developed. It's being shared later on. So it's centralized development. So you cannot compare the same metrics. You cannot compare the open source.
I mean, I think that I'll take that point. I'll concede that. And sorry, I'm going to be like the devil's advocate in all this, because I think it's important to kind of voice like what the community is feeling and stuff. But so to that point, okay, let's go back to the foundation, you know, that Zach mentioned. I mean, if you're comparing Ethereum and EOS, right? Ethereum clearly has had a foundation that has funded so many tools and projects built on it. And if you look at the EOS community, I mean, we were talking about a foundation for a long time, right? You had people like Kevin Rose, who was like at the forefront of that, or so, you know, I thought. But then Block One goes and absorbs EOS Nation, right? And Kevin, all of a sudden,
no, not EOS Nation.
It's
New York.
No
clarification.
But I mean, they get absorbed, and then it's like, okay, well, now the foundation is like behind this black curtain now, you know, or the progress towards the foundation. And I think that's, you know, one of the things that community members have been pointing out too, is again, that like, how do you develop on an open source or on a platform when there is a black veil as to behind like the timeline for updates? What is B1 working on? I don't want to compete with what they're working on. I mean, I think that those are real challenges. Right?
I think if anything, we can go back to 2018, like I was talking about earlier. There was discussion of a WPS before the Genesis block was even produced. Everyone had this expectation that the network would have a way to sustain itself for like core infrastructure and just like maybe like a security auditing team, like just different things that you need to make this project grow into kind of what we all had expectations for. But we burned it. We burned the WPS funds twice. And at least one of those times was because of basically Block One saying that they weren't gonna support it, or I forget the exact terminology they used in their blog post or whatever of why they didn't agree with the WPS. I think it might even been Brendan saying their reasoning why, and he did it in Telegram, which they used to do. They used to communicate with us in Telegram, which was great. And then like we burned the WPS with expectations that maybe they had a better idea. And I think that's always been the expectations is, okay, we'll do like, what we're told, and hopefully there's a plan in place that's going to be better than the original idea with the WPS. And then time and time again, that gets scrapped. And it doesn't matter what we've called it, the Commons Fund, the WPS, whatever. Even at the beginning of this year, EOS Nation and Attic Lab built all the code for a foundation. And literally all of the block producers, they had 15 out of 21 of the mainnet block producers, and this is all on chain. They all had the WPS ready to launch with a funding source and everything. The MSIG just needed executed and it would have been live, but it didn't go live. And I don't know exactly what happened, but I would assume that there were probably discussions offline of maybe like wait and see, just give us a little bit more time. We just announced PBE, and even in the initial PBE announcement blog article, they mentioned an EOS Foundation, which once again kind of like gave us a little bit of hope that this would be coming. And maybe it is because of Corona that took forever, because they all had to move to the Caymans and all that stuff. But I think that's part of it, is there's just no funding mechanism. You look at even your average Ethereum ICO that's launched in the last couple of years, they've raised like $30 to $50 million, let's say. I don't think that $30 to $50 million, core code aside, core code is amazing. Technology is great, but I don't think we've seen $30 to $50 million invested in the EOS mainnet, specifically in the other aspects outside of the core code, which is freaking amazing. And I could talk about other great things too, the developer training courses that have come out, the constant code updates that have come out, the built on EOS IO. We talk about spotlighting different projects. They do good things, but we're lacking a foundation. We're lacking communication.
Yeah, I mean, so sorry if I'm talking too much, somebody shut up. But like, so one of my good friends, he's like a huge person in the Tezos community, right? He's just like a gung-ho Tezos guy, and I think Tezos has a lot of potential. I'm not by any means like an EOS maximalist, but I just think there's so much potential. And one of the things that's been interesting to watch as as that community develops is, like this was just maybe a couple months ago. I didn't realize how far ahead EOS and EOS IO is from like Tezos and some of these other blockchains until like he was transferring to me like a token that wasn't Tezos on the Tezos blockchain. And like the wallet, the most common wallet, which was like Tezbox at the time, and then it was Galleon, like it couldn't see a non-Tezos token. And I was like, that's such a basic function of a blockchain. Like we've had, shit coins on EOS since like since the beginning, and airdrops and blah, blah, blah. I mean, that's so fundamental a thing for a blockchain. And like people didn't realize that Tezos, wasn't even really there. Like that was 3 months ago. Now they have a few other tokens on there, like,
we're spoiled, man. EOS and EOS IO do some things amazing. Go use a block explorer on any other blockchain.
Ahead. Yeah, I didn't really understand like how to use a block explorer until EOS, because blocks are so slow on Bitcoin and even Ethereum that like, you go back and check it the next day and it's not real time. But in EOS, it's like real time. You can see what's happening. But long story short is one of the differences that I saw in the Tezos community is they have the Tezos Commonwealth Foundation or whatever, right? And they're funding a lot of devs. They have their own war chest, and it's a more open kind of collaboration between like that Commonwealth Fund and the developers. And I think, I'm not pointing fingers, but I think it's fair to like point out, flaws. And I think that what you were just saying, like with Block One kind of like dipping their toes into the community and then dipping it out again, like whether it's regard to like the creation of a foundation or the creation of a WPS, like, oh yeah, no, don't do that yet because, and then like, we're always like, wait, is this happening or not? What's going on? So it's not like they have been, totally hands off this whole time. They've been kind of dropping these crumbs or not interfering, but like being involved in ways that, using their clout, their power. Yeah,
I think we'll see it, guys. Joe mentioned in Telegram a while back that and recently here that the reason they probably moved to the Caymans is so they could have a little bit more hands-on approach, trying to make sure that the $4 billion is secured and not subject to any recapture or any additional fines from the SEC, because they'd be investing back into a project. The Caymans will help with that, hopefully. We saw Brendan point out there in Twitter that they were bringing back in the, to date, investments have been managed by third-party talking about the EOS VC, and we're transitioning to a direct investment strategy going forward. And we haven't seen any EOS VC announcements since that time. So I'm guessing that part of that funds will be hopefully managed and allocated to a foundation in the future. So guys, I'll give you your hopium. It's probably coming. We know that EOS New York didn't just uproot, and B1 didn't pay to move those guys across the world just on a whim. They picked it for a reason. Something's going to happen in the future. I agree with you. It would be great if they would just be transparent and tell everybody, Zach, not just the few maybe BPs and whoever else is there. Hey, stand down. Don't do the WPS. We got this going on, and be transparent with the community. But hopefully they'll be able to make that clear sometime in the future. So not to switch gears here, guys, but
I think we need to be positive. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you one thing. I mean, I'll be positive for now. I think the P token network and the stuff that EOS Finex is doing, like, I think that kind of went under the radar a little bit, but bringing, 18 of the most traded ERC20 tokens, like DeFi tokens on Ethereum onto EOS, and giving them the liquidity backing that only an exchange like Bitfinex can do is huge. I think that's like ginormous and a huge step forward to creating EOS as a like a layer 2 solution almost, or like
I've been accumulating some BTC here lately.
Yeah, buddy.
That's something funny is I have some friends that have completely capitulated out of EOS, and it's funny because they still they switched into Bitcoin, but they're holding it as PBTC in their EOS wallets, even though they're like, I gave up on EOS, man, as an investment, but I love EOS IO because, like we said, it's so much better. You can't go to another project once you've used EOS and EOS IO. It's hilarious.
So we've a crypto writer. I mentioned this before that we have a bunch of writers now. We got like 40 writers across multiple platforms, and it's good for me because I'm pretty much EOS maxi, too much to a certain extent. But it's good for me to get that exposure. But likewise, some of these other guys that have not really experienced EOS before are reading all the other articles that our writers are putting out. And some of those writers are actually getting into EOS, and they are just blown away with how fast it is, how easy it is. Okay, we have friction. It's hard to create a damn
onboarding
account.
Is a problem.
Onboarding is a bitch, but once you get past that point, it's amazing compared to every other chain they've ever used. So we got some good things going on.
Oh, for sure. I mean, anyone that's doing any like DeFi farming and stuff like that, like on Ethereum, like
daily, I get it daily. It's amazing on my EOS. I don't do
so
it
infinitely easier on EOS. Like
I've spent like over $6,000 on transaction fees in the lifetime.
Yeah.
Hopefully you got a lot of the airdrop. Had a lot of accounts, not just one account.
I've brought more than like 15 like friends of mine onto EOS just to like play poker on dice like a little while back, and every single one of them was mind blown by the speed and the ease of use.
That's something to be positive about, though. Like as negative as the first 30 minutes or so of this was, it's like in a heartbeat, you add some communication, you add like a crowdfunding platform or some way to get grants or some sort of like investment capital going, and in a heartbeat, things can turn around. I feel like I hope like we'll see that sooner rather than later, but I have no doubt that this whole ship could be completely turned around in a heartbeat based on go ahead.
Sorry, Jack. So I think add one more thing to that is focus on projects, like showcase more projects, not the big projects, not the VC funded projects, not the one which have professional teams, but the community developed projects, which are totally getting ignored, which are done by small teams across the world. I was hoping that when EOS New York kind of teams join, they would be much more hands-on, looking into what community is doing. But I think that's what Block One is very easily ignoring. And again, all of us are still relying on them. I would say community can do very well the same thing. We don't need Block One. we can simply go and start creating more, focus on them. But yeah, that is what I think is biggest thing missing. Not just communication from Block One, but within the community, the communication is missing right now.
Yeah. I think you're right. I think this summer we saw some really cool projects emerge, and I think the community, obviously rallied around some of them, but I think that some of them kind of went under the radar a little bit too. Like, so DeFi Box was, this tremendously amazing application developed by, what looks like a Chinese developer team that's somehow related to Nudex. And I mean, that's a game changer, and it puts stuff like Uniswap and SushiSwap, to shame, just because it's, running on a chain with the power of EOS IO. And then you have, other community supported projects or created projects, like several DAOs, like the VIG. VIG is a really cool project with its own DAC. The DAP account DAO project is such a badass project, and that's kind of gone under the radar to some degree. And I think that there's just the potential is there. The sky's the limit as far as and that dev team has been delivering like crazy as well. So there's really a lot of cool projects that I think we need to kind of tout amongst each other and bring friends in on as well.
I'm gonna share my screen here. This guy Dogman, he shared something in the Everything EOS Telegram channel not too long ago, and it was one of the most positive outlooks. It was one of those days where everyone was kind of pouty and negative, and then he came in and just dropped this message. I'm not going to read it verbatim, but it's on screen, and he basically said, if I compare EOS today to 6 months ago, look at how much has been built. I'm going to try not to read it, but you mentioned DeFi Box, we've got the EFI with the Dolphin swaps. We've got DeFi's network with the DFS proxy that had 62 million EOS in it. We've got EOS Finex that's tapping into the Bitfinex liquidity. We've got P tokens that are bringing Bitcoin and Ethereum and YFI and all these other tokens to EOS. We've got DAP account DAO that's about to bring Ethereum, DeFi, and USDC to EOS, and all kinds of new crazy opportunities that I'm drumming up and thinking about. And I'm not even going to get into that here. So much. Let's just look at his notes. We got the flash loan. So I did an interview with EOS Nation, BSN, and Diffuse last week. And Eve dropped the news on this new flash loan stuff that they just got their code audited for. So literally you could, to add efficiencies, if you look at Ethereum and the arbitrage that happens there, sometimes with a flash loan, you could borrow $1 million and buy a stable coin from one exchange and sell it for a fraction of a penny profit, but come out way ahead using someone else's money all in a single transaction. But to make money on Ethereum doing those kinds of arbitrage, you have to be able to profit more than $5 or $10 at least, probably a lot more on a complex transaction like that, probably $20. So your opportunities for arbitrage are just tiny. If you look at these automated arbitrage bots that are, if you look at Nudex and look at all the transactions going on, you always see the Gravy Train guys, the EOS Nation arbitragers, independents. There's all these account names that you always see, and they're constantly doing these arbitrages to make less than 1 EOS profit. They're doing it to make 1 EOS profit. And all of this stuff is going to be amplified once we have more people utilizing the flash loan systems and things like that. And I think the foundations are here. We really just need capital and liquidity on EOS, but all of the groundwork is laid. There's so many tools that have been built in the last year that weren't around last year. Have you guys seen the EOS X? A lot of us use Blocks IO for our main portal into Block Explorer, but I've been actually using EOS X a little bit more. They've got this DeFi portal here. It's sweet. So if anyone hasn't seen this, check it out. Basically, it has every EOS DeFi project in it. It lets you know if it's audited, MSIG. You can learn more about them. You can even claim them if it's your project. And EOS Nation just added their new vault to it. There's not a lot of information here, but basically you can fund, this vault basically funds flash loans. So the more people putting EOS into the vault, the bigger the flash loans can become. Eventually you'll be able to take a flash loan out for $1 million if there's enough EOS in there. And all of this stuff is just exciting to me. And I'll stop rambling and let someone else talk. And
Ramon or anybody else, if you see some good EOS projects out there that you want to get a little bit more exposure, let Kenny or Sean or me know at EOS Writer, and we'll let our writers know, and if they have the time to pick up the article, we'll throw some content their way. I don't think the community's trying to ignore these smaller projects. It's just that there is a lot going on, and it's really hard with so much going on and so many projects to follow everything. I mean, most of you guys are in the Everything EOS Telegram channel and 20, 30, 50 other EOS related Telegram channels. So, there's a lot going on. It's just hard to put it in one place. Go ahead.
Let's take a moment, man. Let's go around the room and just let everyone talk about like don't go into crazy show mode, but everyone could have like a minute to just talk about some cool stuff that's been built.
Blancos on EOS. Is this happening? I think Rudy said it was like 2 months ago or 3 months ago. So is this not happening?
No, Rudy said it was like a year and a half ago.
That was
Blancos
so
is
2
amazing.
summers ago. I thought.
Yeah, that was like 2 summers ago. So.
We haven't been told otherwise. We just don't know to what extent, right?
Yeah.
Same thing with voice. We haven't been told otherwise. We just don't know to what extent. So give it some more time.
Blancos had over 100,000 registrations. There's like
they
over
raised
16,000 in the Discord channel.
Yeah, let me see what Job has said, how much they raised. He put something out there.
Hey, I also did the math for the founders packs, and it was like 1.2 something $million.
Yeah,
for
he
just
did
the
that out
founders
there.
packs.
It's a lot. Yeah. I mean, it's funny because, we talk about how like the small scale of like blockchain, products and blockchain games and stuff like that. I mean, this blows everything that's ever, any game that's ever been like, run on a blockchain out of the water. And obviously it's not like on a blockchain right now, but, or it's on its private chain right now. But I mean, like if that hooks into the main net at some point, or even if its own EOS IO private chain, I mean, it just changed the scale, in an order of magnitude that we've never seen before for any kind of blockchain game. And that's awesome.
For full disclosure, this is going to sound ridiculous. I've spent over 17 grand on Blancos.
Oh my goodness.
There it is.
And how many of those people were willing to take EOS compared to Ethereum? I've
none of
noticed
them.
this.
I bought 2 of them from Bonds Manifest, but those were like lower grade Blancos, and no one else wanted EOS. They were like, no, just Ethereum, please.
Wow.
So I was going to try to show you there. I couldn't get it to pull up right. We did. He said over $1 million, and like just from the big one alone, the
Dino boss.
Dino half $1,000,000 just from that one NFT.
Yeah, they sold out. They sold
Bloomer
out
on our
of that
screen for
one.
some reason.
Yeah, I couldn't get it. I couldn't get it pulled up. So anyway, I'll get it later.
So what are you guys' expectations? Like whenever everyone is like, when's voice coming to the main net, or when's Blancos coming to the main net? Like what's the actual expectations here? Because it doesn't make sense to put a full application on the main net. And I just kind of want to know what everyone's expectations are for whenever like we have an integration with the main net. Like what does that look like for you guys? Like how much integration is going to be enough? Is it just the token? Or do you want the entire app on the main net? Because I don't think that's realistic. Like, what is everyone's expectations when we talk about these games like Blancos on mainnet? Like, what are we expecting?
They said spring was when the market was going to open. So I assume that if the market opens, it's only trading on a blockchain. But I don't know if that's going to be EOS. But spring 2021, the market in the game is expected to open for trading the actual NFTs, the Blancos themselves. But I'm hoping that it's on EOS. I don't know. What
didn't they say that they thought that even the Blancos bucks would fluctuate, like the value of what the bucks would be? And I don't guess I know how that's going to happen if they're selling those.
Yeah, it's like $10 per 1,000.
Right now it is, but yeah. I swear I saw them say something about that might fluctuate.
Oh snap! I need to be buying up some Blancos bucks then.
That's interesting. There's also moolah. There's another currency in the game, so there's 2 currencies in the
Maybe
game.
that was it. Maybe it was the moolah that would be transferable as well. I don't know now.
I mean, I'm realistic, Zach. I kind of anticipate that it's probably something like voice is probably going to run continue to run on its own like private EOS IO chain and then like send hashes or whatever it is
Absolutely.
to connect it to the mainnet so that's still like verifiable and recorded on the mainnet. I think it's just going to be interesting to see like how like the tokens, how that works out. Like what are voice tokens going to look like, and how are they going to be transferable? Can you hold them on an EOS mainnet account, right? Does that tether back somehow, or is it always going to be a token on its own chain?
It makes sense for like any token or any tradable activity to happen on mainnet. Otherwise, how would you bring in liquidity? Like right now, whatever you say about EOS is bringing liquidity. Right? EOS is one of the most traded token on Coinbase or anybody, most of these exchanges. You can easily connect to dollars using USDC and so on. You can now we have PBTC, Bitcoin liquidity, Ethereum liquidity, all those things, and more bridges being built. The thing is that it will be actually make economic sense for them. If you are developing Blancos or any other, like even Voice, like I don't know if Block1 has any plans to bring Voice to be a tradable token openly. But if that is going to happen, I think that's what mainnet can bring in terms of liquidity. It's very difficult as a private chain to get listed anywhere to get them tradable.
Yeah, someone tweeted something about what if voice tokens were somehow like, a fraction of like PBTC or something like that, on mainnet. And I think I replied with like, yeah, VBTC would be awesome. It's like 1 Satoshi per voice. But how awesome would that be? Something like that, the liquidity that you have with Bitcoin, in voice tokens.
I have no doubt you'll be able to trade your voice tokens for PBTC at some point in the future, but I doubt that the voice token will fluctuate. They're not going to guarantee any value for it. Hate to burst your bubble there, guys.
Well, what about
let's talk about Blancos then, at least.
What's everyone's expectations for the one thing I think we've been waiting for since Dan used to call it BitShares like 3.0 or 4.0, the DEX or the FinCEN product or whatever we want to call it at this point. I think it sounds like an exchange for the most part from everything that's been made public. Like what's everyone's expectations for this financial services product? When Cheney and I interviewed Dan Larimer, I think he hoped for it to be done by the end of the year. I am under the impression, unless it's a Christmas miracle, I don't think it'll come out by the end of the year. I would like to get more information on it by the end of the year. That'd be great. I'd be satisfied with that. But what is everyone's expectations with that? And do you think it will drive value back to the mainnet in some way?
Why EOS Finex is not the same? What can you expect more than what EOS Finex is trying to do?
No, but that's my I would love to know from people more knowledgeable here what it could be, because I can't even imagine really what it could be. This financial product from B1. Can somebody elaborate a little bit more on speculation as to like in detail what it may be? Because I have no idea.
I don't have the exact.
It's not going to be just a DEX, is it?
I think it's an automated market maker of some sort based on. I did like a little 3-minute video clip of Brendan Bloomer in an interview with Raoul Pal. And he was talking about driving the incentives from like, I don't know his exact words, but it almost sounded like he was describing liquidity providers being incentivized for like adding liquidity, and just like we talk about with DeFi with like earning trading fees. Yeah. So that's one of my expectations is at minimum, that would be a difference between, and this is just speculation, but between EOS Finex and Block1's product is, I think that there will be some sort of DeFi components to it, and they are calling it ProFi, which my assumption is it's more regulated, probably all KYC'd, I'm sure, and getting institutional access to DeFi. So we see these people like Michael Saylor and all these other institutions and publicly traded companies buying up Bitcoin. But are they really able to put that Bitcoin to work for them? Like what could they do with that Bitcoin to continue to gain returns? Like, and I hope that what they're building is a financial product that could potentially add billions of dollars of liquidity through these institutional investors and give them a place to park their capital, take out loans against their capital, borrow whatever shit coins they want, even hopefully EOS, and put their capital to work through these ProFi products. And I don't remember where it was said, but it sounded like the Profi stuff is going to be more than one product. But the only product I know of is the Block One financial services product that's kind of been half made public. So it seems like they're trying to build an ecosystem around this Profi stuff. But
well, what I don't remember where I saw it now. I remember that we talked a lot in Everything EOS channel, a bunch of us, and some other channels, that it was going to be a tax compliant. You know, anything that B1 does is going to be KYC and going to be tax compliant. But I also saw something, or remember something from the SEC agreement about IPOs, and I wonder if they're going to provide a part of their Profi is to provide tax compliant and regulatory compliant public offering services for companies or projects to launch IPOs within a regulated platform, hopefully connected to EOS.
I mean, I have big expectations, and I always have had big expectations when it comes to Block One and what they can deliver. I think people forget that Dan Larimer was, founder of BitShares, which is the first DEX. I mean, years ahead of this DeFi summer that we just had, and people talking about DEXs and even knowing what, really what DEXs were, which has really kind of just come to light in the last maybe year and a half, right? 2 years at the most. And then you forget that like the first, I don't know if BitUSD was like the first stable coin, but it's like the earliest stable coins was on BitShares. Mm-hmm. Maker DAO, that whole phenomenon came out of BitShares, and people don't realize that. There was someone in the BitShares community was like, oh, this is cool, I think I can spin off this. And that's where Maker DAO came from on Ethereum. And so that's like the earliest, DeFi, arguably. And then AMMs, right, which have like blown up recently, right? And people didn't even know what an AMM was like, a year and a half ago. I mean, that was the Bancor team that came up with the first AMM. And the Bancor team has been working with Block One and EOS IO for a while now, right? The Bancor algorithm is built into the RAM, pricing on EOS and EOS IO. And so there's a lot of like foundational elements to all of programmatic finance or DeFi, or whatever you want to call it, that has its roots, with either Dan Larimer or Block One. And so, I'm expecting, something awesome. Again, maybe it's just I'm one of these diehard EOS community members who has huge expectations, and maybe I'm setting myself up for the fall. What the details are, I don't know, but I'm definitely expecting something, pretty cool to be launched here.
Let's not forget.
Doesn't that come to the whole problem that we have in that we don't know the answer to that? And we've talked about DAD, we've talked about EOS FinX, and we talk about DAP, and what else have we got? EOS Nation's new
flash loans,
etc. And we have no idea whether any of that works with, is undermined by, competes with what Block One will come with, possibly by Christmas. And for me, that's the trouble. I work and I support financially as far as I can these projects, but I have no idea what the direction of EOS actually is.
So
that's why people want roadmaps from Block One, so that they know what to build, because they don't want to get dethroned by any Block One product.
And that goes all the way. Go ahead.
No, I don't agree with that approach, though. I mean, I have been, again, saying many times, people who say Block One should tell me so that I don't build it. Why can't you build better than Block One? Like, come on, man.
Block One's not the best at everything, and it has nothing to do with financial resources.
And they've shown it, right? They've shown it with voice. Where is voice? They were supposed to compete with Facebook. Come on. Let's be critical of them. Like, we're all saying voice is great, like they're going to do something great. I hope and I definitely want it to do great, but it's not Facebook. Let's accept it. It's a blog. It's going to be like, it's nowhere near social as anything else can be. Let's call it what it is. I love EOS. I want voice to be successful, but let's not say Block One knows how to build products. They are great with EOS IO. They don't know how to build products. Like, let's
look at the Universal Authentication Library. As soon as it came out, it was already kind of not as good as Transit at the time. EOS New York built something better than Block One. They both kind of released them at the same time. That's just one instance of it. You gave the voice example, but that is an issue with the roadmap. Is there's a lot of people that, like, Shintai basically built the Rex before the Rex, and then all of the early wallet providers were terrified about this Block One wallet that never even came out. So it's more of a perception thing. And but you're right, Ramon, where they're not the best product developers by any means. They're humans just like everyone else. And as a large corporation, they also move a lot slower than a smaller, more nimble, and more hungry team, especially if they have the right product backgrounds.
Yes, and I think product-wise, I would say there are some great products in EOS already. Means they like whatever Block One has done. Again, as I said, like let's talk about competencies, right? Means Block One has one of the best layer one team. Means EOS IO is the best. Let's accept it, but let's not say that okay, we have to be waiting for Block One to build all the products. Means this is not how any blockchain would succeed. They cannot do everything, and plus, I don't like they are still ramping up these teams. They're incubating these complex. Voice is a small startup within Block One. It's not like this is the same as like Google does like hundreds of projects which are within Google, and nothing was as successful as search. So you cannot expect one company to have all the expertise in the world. So this is not like I'm not saying anything to downgrade Block One here. But what I'm saying is this is a wrong expectation to expect one set of team or one they're not a very old team. You have to also understand even though they made whatever money they made with ICO, but they are still a startup. And they have already been very, very successful with EOS IO. So let's build things. Like I think we can all build much better, and we have all our competencies. Like all of us have better product sense, perhaps, in our own domain.
Let's take the gloves off here, Ramon. You've been developing enterprise blockchain solutions as long as I've known you. You are at the forefront of enterprise blockchain. You built a lot of the infrastructure that Moonlighting was using, and Moonlighting was one of the very few EOS VC projects to actually integrate with the mainnet. What are your thoughts on, I know it's still early with their approach to enterprise, but do you think that they're going about it the right way? And what tips would you have for them based on your experience? And have they, let's be honest, have they reached out to you for advice on this stuff? Because I think...
I would say, I don't know. First of all, I have very limited understanding of what they are doing for enterprise. What I know is that they did this EOS IO for business, and there are a lot of good stuff. I think they could have done a lot more education earlier, like doing this kind of, now we have these webinars, which should have come 2 years ago, which would have been much more useful when community was hot. And, as I keep telling, like we were doing these webinars here locally, we were trying to create those, and we had like a Google developer groups interested. We had hundreds of people coming to our webinar here in Silicon Valley, and we did not have any content. And now that we have this content, we don't have that engagement anymore because, things move on. People get disappointed. They don't come back easily. And I cannot go bring the same community again and say hundreds of people that, oh, we failed 2 years ago. Now we are better. Come again. They have moved on to something else, something more shiny. So that's a challenge. So again, now, coming back to enterprise, yes, we are engaged with many enterprise. We do think EOS IO is still the best fit. When I go and give them the comparison between what can be done on Ethereum, what can be done on other blockchains, it's a no-brainer to use EOS IO. So that's pretty easy. When you say comparing with the blockchain, so Block One has done, it's very tough for me to say. Like because we don't know, right? Because again, it's a matter of communication. They are a private company. They do things which we cannot see. But nothing public, which I have seen yet. Whatever we have seen publicly is not giving me great confidence that they are reaching out to real, enterprise who are interested in blockchain. And I think definitely if they reach out to me and we are talking about it, we have some ideas because we have been talking to enterprise for the last 2 years. We have engaged and dropped projects because of either lack of funding or because of not enough support at that time from, everything needs a lot of care and, marketing and so on. We are a small team. We cannot go and keep chasing certain opportunities. But yes, I think we can give them pointers with the kind of money they have and with the kind of intent they can bring in. Sure, I think we can follow up on these. And this is where I think there is a gap in what is possible and what is, I think, we are not doing as a community. So if Block One is interested, I don't know what their interest level is right now to help community projects. We are not actually a community project either. We are still a private company working on solutions. So I don't know what their ideas are on the enterprise and would love to learn and work with them.
I think one of the biggest strengths that they had was the community. Nathan Rempo and I, when we interviewed Bart Wyatt from Block One, who's leading the enterprise and blockchain as a service, like we specifically asked about a partners program, because I think that could be one of the most beautiful things that Block One could do to engage with the community, is to create like a global partners network with all of these talented teams like yourself, EOS Sphere, Dublin, Amsterdam, all these teams that have the right skill sets to benefit the entire ecosystem, working together rather than kind of like living in your own little silos. And then also going back to people kind of being worried about competing with Block One in some areas. If an independent block producer team like EOS Sphere or any of the other teams I mentioned, if they're fighting for the same customer as Block One and they're like a large, like imagine if they're able to approach like an IBM sized customer, who's that company going to go to? They're probably going to go with the bigger fish if all their things are equal. And that's just business for the most part, but there should be a way to build an ecosystem around this. I don't have the solutions, but when we asked Bart those questions, it sounded like he agreed that it was a good idea, but I didn't get the impression that it was in the works yet. And that's just one of those things that like, they can't be too slow on this. Like they've proven to be too slow on a number of things. And this is one of those things that they're already 2 years behind on, 1 year behind on. And they really, I think, could take advantage of the partners network. I think there's too many talented teams in this ecosystem that are willing to put the work in and already have put the work in and have the experience.
That, can I just pick up on that? Because that interview and other interviews that you've done as well, I've noticed from Block One, you asked him how was something outside of his work stream, what were their plans, how were they going? And it's always deflected in a sort of like, oh, that's not what I deal with this. And you've just mentioned the word silo. And I felt that Block One takes a very silo approach to its work streams, which is sort of fine. But then when you're trying to take that sort of, I wonder who takes the holistic, overarching view of what they're trying to achieve, because everybody that comes in front of us talks about their work stream and not somebody else's. It's difficult to get that wider picture. That's my personal opinion anyway.
I think that's quite common. Like Apple, they're very much siloed like that as well. From speaking to some of the developers who work on projects at Apple, they have no idea what's happening in the next department. And they're working on certain parts of the iOS API, and they have no idea what the Swift UI team is working on, for example. So there is very much a siloed culture there when they're trying to protect their intellectual property. And I guess they've taken that approach. And that could indicate that they've got something that's worth actually keeping a secret, which could be exciting as well. So yeah, I wanted to say before about some of the profile stuff that they're coming out with. The fact that they're not releasing it or they're not talking about it could indicate that it's not like anything else that's been out there already, or something else that we can all easily make. So they have, obviously huge budget, as we know, and they have a large legal team. And then they've got these regulation things that they're trying to lobby for and get through as well. Those could be the hurdles and the blockers that are the things that are stopping them from being able to release anything they want to talk about. And it probably frustrates the crap out of them as much as it frustrates us as well. Because if we think way back to when EOS IO first launched, they were talking about all sorts of amazing things and decentralizing everything and value adders versus value extractors and all these things that got us all excited about EOS. And now all of that is just gone. And no one's belief can change that quickly unless they were scamming us, which I don't think any of us think they were. So I would think that there's been purely legal things that have come in and meant that it's just crushed their dreams for now. And now they're really, really busting to want to get these things out. And now every time they speak up on Twitter or anything else, they just get slaughtered by everyone. So now they're just muted themselves and really, really going just day by day saying, can we get this regulation approved? Can we get it approved? Can we get it approved? Because they're busting to release all this good news, what I think is good news anyway, so they can leverage and actually release products which quite realistically no other blockchain technology in the industry is capable of being able to deliver. Because we all know EOS IO right now is the fastest and the best and powerful in many aspects. So no one else can really compete with that. But it also means that they need to keep their mouths shut, because if they do tell people what they've got and then they do open source everything they've got, it gives all these other blockchains and everyone else room to just go on and just take all those ideas, steal with it, and run with it.
Shout out to Joe Lewis, who I don't know if you're on this call or not because no one knows what you look like, but he's shared in the Everything EOS Telegram channel. He pointed out the government websites with the U.S. government that shows the lobbyist spending, and in the last year, Block One has spent $570,000 lobbying specifically for like FinCEN related lobbyist efforts. Like, you don't get the like a deep dive into what they're spending it on, but it kind of has broad categories, and it's clear that they're spending their money on lobbying for financial services type of efforts. And I think that's something that kind of goes unmentioned a lot of times. That is one good thing that they're doing. What else here? So let's drop some spoilers. Almost everyone at Block One has used this financial services product in like internal testing and like trading contest type stuff with funny money. And the one thing I've been told by almost everyone is that it is the absolute best UX UI of any exchange product they've used, centralized, decentralized, stocks or crypto. It's the absolute best one they've ever used. And that's not blowing smoke. These are all people I trust. And that's something I'm looking forward to. It kind of makes me salivate a little bit at I know it's just UX UI, but I think that's something Block One did early on was with their hiring efforts. Like they didn't hire necessarily the right people. They weren't hiring block producer, ex-block producer talent at the time for like the entire first year that they were hiring. But what they were hiring was like the best people in their fields. So like the best UX UI designers who might not have the appetite or passion for blockchain, but they're really, really good at what they do. And I can't wait to see this UX UI that I've heard so much about. And that's, I guess, just one spoiler I can give here because I haven't seen it myself. I've only heard raving things, and it's ready to go. So I'm thinking the thing that's holding it back is either little tweaks here and there or regulation. And I hope we see it soon. Dan teased towards the end of the year, and we're at the end of the year. So how much extra leeway do they need? A month or two? Hopefully we see it.
Dude, with that UX and UI, I think that's always been such a key winning feature of EOS IO that no other blockchain has. And I know we still complain about the onboarding and say it's a pain in the ass to onboard. It's really not. It's just that we don't have quite the right wallet journeys yet, and that it's nothing to do with the blockchain. It's actually the front-end technology that isn't quite connecting the dots. But it's fast. Like, one of the most important things in UI and UX is speed. And I've always been a mobile developer, and you've got about 3 seconds before you lose the attention of your user. So if you're waiting more than 3 seconds for scrolling or a spinner or something like that, they're gone, or they're going to talk about how crap your app is. And we can see that EOS IO really gets rid of that and allows the base technology for people to actually use it. So it makes sense that all these other things are going to get built on top of that.
Got some new people on here. What do you guys think of Google Cloud? That was something that was probably the most bullish news we've got all year. And it was like a 10-minute pump, and then Bitcoin crashed, and then we've just kind of been complaining about everything since then. Like, do you guys think there's more to Google, or do you think that they just spun up a block producer as kind of like just part of their business relationship with other unrelated things with Block One? Or do you think that there's more to it that we don't know about?
There's got to be more there, right? I mean, I don't think we've seen Google Cloud or Google pop up as a validator on, too many, if any, other like large
Data and Hashgraph. That's it, as far as I know.
Brendan tweeted about how it meant something for EOS, and then he took the tweet down. So I don't know whether they made him do that, but I mean, it can't be a bad thing, can it? I mean,
it's definitely not a bad thing.
it's not a bad thing, but I have mixed feelings. So I want to believe just like the rest of us, but like whenever like they kicked on the block producer, they created their wallet with Wombat, which is fine. Wombat's great. But like they didn't have like different interactive keys at first, and then they didn't have the BP.json right away, but they did get it up. And we just haven't heard that much. And lack of communication doesn't necessarily mean lack of building. But like we all crave more communication, and without communication, we could just speculate around this little group.
And also,
here.
doesn't it link into the interview that you did with Dan when he was talking about financial and how the block producers for the financial project don't necessarily need to be the EOS block producers, and this could just be them finding their feet for that? I mean, I don't know.
That's what I was thinking. It's like they're getting started to actually work on the more important financial instruments, or the more legit products coming out from Block One, instead of just having lesser known or lesser responsible block producers.
I just did Sorry.
I think one thing I would like to add is as block producers, any project when you're building, you're looking for MSIG candidates, or like block producers are obvious choice. So bringing Google kind of people probably has that kind of benefit. It's just like giving a key to another trusted and well-known party, because it's about trust, right? When a lot of people were concerned that all the China has too much of top block producers, and that doesn't give confidence. So I think that's all it achieves at this moment. And once Google does more, I would say that's when I would say yes, it was useful. Otherwise, it's hardly any use if they are not doing anything more than just spinning up a node and nobody really doing any tools or new contributions from them, basically.
Mm-hmm. I was just sharing my screen because after I did my interview last week with BSN, the EOS Nation guys, and the Diffuse guys, like before we even started recording, just seeing like the vibe in the Zoom call, man, it just seemed like Alex and Yaifan and Eve, like they were just like good buddies. Like they've been working closely with BSN, but then you look at who BSN's working with, and you look at who their cloud service providers are. I mean, who else would they use besides these ones? But Google Cloud is one of them. And during Cheney and my interview we did with Dan a while ago, we named off some of these companies. We named off Google Cloud. I think, I forget what the other ones were, but he said, yeah, companies like that, as if there were going to be more. And I don't remember where all these bits and pieces were, but it almost seemed like at the time that Google Cloud might just be the first of several more. And then you look at who the technical partners are of BSN. You see Diffuse, who's EOS IO grassroots, EOS Nation. I don't know who Daml is, but out of all of their technical partners, 2 out of 3 of them at least are EOS IO related. So you don't see people from Tezos, you don't see people from Ethereum or Neo or Polkadot or any of these other projects. You see that EOS is working with BSN. And what Yaifan said in our interview was that they have this thing where they're building like a permissioned network on top of a public network. And I almost got, and he was talking about CBDC blockchains, and he called it specifically CBDC EOS. And then you go back to CBDC has been something that's been brought up a lot. And you look up, 1 second here, I'm going to share my screen. One of the topics, we're not even going to get to it today, but Block One, they did a financial, some Singapore conference last week. And one of the topics with Lee Schneider, who's the general counsel of Block One, I've yet to even watch these webinars, by the way, because they're not archived. I wasn't able to catch them live. But the conversation was CBDCs, stable coins, and the future faces of money. And it just seems like EOS is going to be perfectly positioned to be the public network for these other permissioned CBDC chains to kind of be built on top of. And it almost sounds like what ProFi is being described as. And I don't quite have all of the pieces put together, but I figure if I throw some crumbs out there, maybe some other people could put some more pieces together and we can get a clear answer here on what's kind of happening.
Well, here, I'll offer a piece of the puzzle, Zach. And I'll do it in the form of a question. What is B1 going to do with 180 megawatts in January?
Megawatts?
With the option to extend to 300 megawatts of electricity in their data center in Texas.
They're mining Bitcoin. They're mining Bitcoin, as I understand.
For people who aren't aware of the magnitude of that, 180 megawatts and 300 megawatts, the footprint of Amazon or AWS in the US is 600. So with between 30 and 50% of the electrical power of a data center starting in January, what's going to happen? What are they just turning that on and just going to? Are they going to start cooking cannabis?
That'd be cool.
What are they going to do with 180 megawatts?
I don't. That's still a big question mark for me. I have no freaking clue what they're doing with these mining
What
operations.
are they going to do?
Not everything relates to EOS or EOS IO, as we've seen. So I think setting expectations on like their profit revenue models here.
Is it really possible they're going to create a footprint 30% to 50% the size of AWS, and it would have no effect on EOS? It would just be astounding.
But if they're just mining Bitcoin, then how would it affect EOS?
Hey bros, we're just mining Bitcoin over here.
I think in the press release, didn't it say, it said something about EOS IO Tech, I think. Maybe like how the mining pool distributes its Bitcoin. So like the pool makes mines all the Bitcoin, then it distributes it or does something in some way. Maybe it uses the EOS IO Tech to do something like that. I don't know. I can't connect the dots on that one.
If the people are FUDing now, and 180 to 300 megawatts comes online, mining Bitcoin, what do you think they're going to say? I mean, people are going to lose their mind. They're going to lose their mind.
They said Brandon Bloomer's statement, as published in Business Wire, has everything it's pointing to Bitcoin mining confirmed by himself that it is Bitcoin mining. So let's not worry about what people will say. We have to all agree it is Bitcoin mining, but there are 3 words in the end of his statement: powered by EOS IO. Now, what does that powered by EOS IO means? I have no clue. How can you mine Bitcoin with EOS IO? I have no idea. So
you never heard of POW coin?
But the reason I'm saying it is to basically point out that I don't think there's really a lot of space at this particular moment for FUD. I mean, something ginormous is about to happen.
My conjecture back when this was announced was that they were going to wrap this into an IPO and sell ownership of the mining farm.
Just like selling gold mining stocks.
Yeah, why not? Why not? Hey guys, here we have 180 megawatt capacity mining. Here's our IPO. You can figure out how much it's worth, and people buy it up, and then they get dividends in the share of whatever the profits are of Bitcoin. Just a thought.
How do you power by EOS IO though? How do you power an IPO with EOS IO?
You pay people
tied into the FinCEN product somehow.
You pay people. You make it an EOS IO IPO, and you pay people in Bitcoin, wrap Bitcoin on an EOS IO chain.
So many regulatory issues with that. I've not seen them doing anything bold like that in years.
We're pretty excited about the wrapped Bitcoin on EOS IO for quite a long time until they went silent. So
yeah. So that's one thing I hope to see out of the financial services product is I don't expect everything to be on the mainnet necessarily, but one of my expectations I do have is that there will be on-off ramps onto and out of the mainnet. So what that means, I don't know, but hopefully that would mean tethered assets of whatever's on the FinCEN product. We know it's going to at least have Bitcoin and you would think EOS. So that's the other thing is with the financial services product. I'm pretty much sure that there's automated market maker components to it. What does Bitcoin have a shitload of? They've got a shitload of Bitcoin and they've got a shitload of EOS. And what is an LP in the first place? It's a two-sided liquidity pool with one token on one side and one token on the other side. What the F would everyone think if Block One became one of the biggest liquidity providers of definitely Bitcoin in the world. But if they would add to the liquidity pool of EOS and Bitcoin, that would essentially be putting skin in the game, saying, if you guys continue to dump EOS now on against Bitcoin, we'll accumulate it in our LP. Or if you want to make the price of EOS go up, we're just going to decentralize our holdings anyway, and we'll have less EOS than we started with, but more Bitcoin, which decentralizes the network even further. That I don't have the answer to that, but that's one of my pie in the sky dreams, is that they become a liquidity provider for our two favorite tokens.
They're not going to risk their Bitcoin for buying EOS on a liquidity mine.
We can dream, man.
I don't see that happening. Why would you do that?
All right, we'll have to mark this timestamp. Hopefully, I'll be able to replay this and say code, but I really don't know.
Zach, just taking you back to the Singapore thing, and I hold a bag, so I'm disclosure. Chintai, and they've been with the Monetary Authority of Singapore. They've been in the sandpit for the last 12 months. So I'm always hopeful that there's something coming from them. But again, it's like so many things on EOS. People actually, they're proper businesses, and they've got like a long-term plan rather than just a 4-week promotional period. So that's one that I keep an eye on.
Yeah, man, I love Shintai. I like to follow everything they're doing. They seem. I just hope that they could be kind of like frenemies, whatever you want to call it, with Block One. I hope their relationships are probably better than what's on the surface, but if not, it doesn't really matter. I think they're both going for that regulated DeFi thing, and I think if Block One, like whenever they first announced that profile, I wish I had all my tweets lined up on my screen and my notes, but didn't. Shani, you would remember this better than anyone. Didn't Brendan say that they were interested in like investing in DeFi products on EOS that like met all the regulatory like compliance stuff that would fit within like the realms of profile?
And he mentioned Chintai in one of the comments afterwards.
Yeah, so that would be a great like win for the community projects and ecosystems, is if there's more. If they could build a better relationship than we've seen publicly. And I don't know.
I think there might have been concerns about there being an existing token for Chintai.
Yeah.
He said EOS VC and other institutional VC groups see the compliance barriers to many promising projects we're facing, and we're working towards solutions. #B1, #EOS IO, #EOS.
Yeah, but then I'm a bag holder. He said something positive about Chintai in a tweet just a day or two after that, because I remember trying to poke him on the day and he didn't reply. He doesn't reply. But then a day or two later, he said something. I don't know what it was. But I'm hoping that the whole Singapore seems to be, a hotbed for progress in this area, that together, somehow, one or t'other, it's going to become good.
Do you remember when Shintai went to zero?
That wick.
Well, I got half my bag. But no, yes, somebody pressed the wrong button. But then they've done that on I think on DApp as well at one point. I mean, you've always got to have your low bid in.
Well, the guy has nearly finished the dump. He has 4 million left, and that's it. So in a month time, he's done. Then we'll see.
I see John joined the call here. John Heater from Boyd. Hey, what's up, man? Thanks for coming. Have you had a chance to look at EOS IO 2.1 at all? I know it's just dropped today, so.
Yeah, it looks, I read through the release notes. I mean, yeah, it looks very promising. I mean, obviously we always forget, during all the FUD, we always forget, like, Block One pumps out some incredible code, honestly, pretty reliably. So we have to give them credit for that.
The network got attacked somehow by, if you guys saw it in the EOS Nation channel, the DDoS guy was there and saying, hey, here's what I'm doing. Look at this account. Basically, the mainnet was put to a standstill for about, 4 hours at least, just within a week. And Block One, Eve said publicly, they had 100 people on this problem, and overnight, everything got fixed and the mainnet was running smoothly and patched, and all 21 block producers updated their core code. You would not see anything like that on any other chain. like that, they get mad respect for that, for the support that they provide to the core code. I don't think anyone would ever complain about that. But I saw in the Jungle Telegram channel, everyone was getting pretty excited about a few features in 2.1. And I was just wondering if there was any of them that stood out to you personally as a developer.
Well, I think the ability for block producers to choose how they store RAM is very interesting. So by default, right now, everything is just stored actually like in the RAM in the RAM or in the cache of the node. But now they have an alternative solution where you can just store all the state data on the hard drive or SSD by default. So this will make running nodes less expensive. But if a block producer was to run in this mode, that would conceivably increase the CPU cost to run transactions, because it would actually, like, locally when running the transaction, it would probably run more slowly. But I assume that the block producers would not actually use this feature. At least that's the impression I get from reading that. It's more for API providers and
I think in the documentation, I think it said it was like, they had one of those disclaimers that said, we don't trust this for production quite yet. And was that the one that they said was optimized for single node networks, for like a private blockchain with a single block producer? Was that particular
You're thinking
feature?
of the kind of fallover feature that
Okay.
they've added for, it's basically for having multiple physical nodes behind one logical block producer. And they said they use that for voice.
Okay.
So that's interesting to have redundancy when you have a single block producer blockchain, but you have redundancy for that block producer to make it more reliable.
So I am very happy to be here, because we will see the dots connecting. Because for myself, I speak just for myself and maybe other one in this call now, there are a lot of values. And there are not only monetary value, there are the code technology value is unbeatable. So EOS IO smart contract platform is just the better smart contract platform that I have never used. This is reliable, and Block One is providing that. They are maintaining that, and they are very resilient. Because with this time that we are living, we are forgetting. We don't speak that we have the most complicated situation with the economical side, and also we have the COVID. But if we abstract of the COVID, we have the economical side, and they are always here, and they are waking up each and every day, as all us here in this call. So there is Block One, and there are us. So without Block One, I think we cannot undivide Block One that is providing the EOS IO smart contract platform and the EOS mainnet that was launching in June 2018 by 100 people that was very bullish on the EOS mainnet. And now if you see the EOS mainnet, it's just perfect. We have on top of the EOS mainnet a lot of solutions that are built that we don't speak. There are a lot of solutions that are built on top of the EOS mainnet, and it is very accountable to build on top of the EOS mainnet, because this is the most liquidity is there that will be complicated to shut down, because there is a lot of liquidity. There is no single point of failure. This is very intelligent, smart to build on top of the EOS mainnet. And the reason that the BSN and Diffuse and EOS Nation is thriving the EOS mainnet, it's because that's the better public permissionless blockchain with 3 minutes LIB. And look, we have 0.5 seconds for the block time, and we have 3 seconds on both. So it's not ridiculous to say that the EOS mainnet could reach an LIB of maybe fast 0.5 seconds. So imagine the day where the EOS mainnet is able to reach 0.5 seconds also for the LIB. Who will not build DeFi solution on the EOS mainnet? Because we need the speed, not only the block time, but also the last irreversible block. So for me, that's just fantastic. I am very bullish on the news. Today we have a beautiful news. Yesterday also, and the fact that Block One is building blockchain as a service, so EOS IO for business, perfect, and they are building with Google Cloud Platform. That is just the first one that is here. There will be other platform. Google Cloud Platform is fantastic platform. We can build beautiful application. There is not only Azure or AWS. So Google Cloud Platform is fantastic. After that the communication is not perfect, I think they are building, they are shut their mouth, they are building. One day Dan Larimer will come and he will say, guys, I have solved that. And all here we will say, whoa, that will be fantastic. So they are resilient, they are doing their job, they are reliable. And the day where they will come, we will all say, oh, we was always thinking that would be like that. So
that day will come. I hope it comes. I'm pretty confident it still will eventually. It's taking longer than we wanted it to, but one day this day will come where we're all gonna just turn in from bears to bulls and be like, we told you the whole time, this is the best software, the best technology, blah blah blah.
Exactly.
It is.
Never
it
doubted
is.
it. Never
it
doubted
is.
it.
Never doubted it for a second.
The best,
the communication.
Win.
Something that I wanted to add after I shut my mouth and I go. I want to say something before I go. When we expect a date on the things, we can forget because they have published a manifesto. Block One has published a manifesto. It's a strategic vision. They have not put a date for each step or milestone. They have put the milestone, the road, but it is software. It is software. When you are in the software engineering, you have a strategic vision. If you have a startup, you have to go from 0 to 1. And when you have reached the 1, you can go to the N. So Block One is doing exactly what do an innovative company. So they cannot unbuild. They will be totally crazy if they are, say today, in 1 month we will be here. In 2 months we will be here. If after it is not coming, all the people, all the community will be disappointed. And now we are disappointed because we have no date. But no date, it's normal. I have no date when I will die. Maybe I will die tomorrow, or maybe I will die in 2 months. I don't know. So you have to build, you have to order your shitcoin. For me, EOS is a utility token we have to hold, we have to build with that. This is not the monetary value. It is building. This is not, and there is no foundation for EOS. That's good that there is no foundation because in Switzerland, in Zug, we have Tezos, we have Ethereum, that is a foundation. We have Cardano, the Cardano with the guy with the eagle on his shoulder. You will never see Dan Larimer coming with an eagle on his shoulder. He is very respectable. He's a man. He can do sometimes failure, maybe communicate not exactly what we expected, but he say the truth. He say the facts. After that, the community interpret what he say, but what he say is exactly what is happening. He don't lie, or maybe sometimes, but he say the things as they are. So you cannot say, imagine Zach, or imagine Cheney. You are Dan Larimer, okay? You want to solve the property right, the property life. You cannot come each and every day in the Telegram channel of Everything EOS or in EOS Nation to say, we are building. No, he shut, he build, and he hear all our FUD, all our complaining. So we have to be more humble, and also the EOS mainnet, that is an experiment. And this experiment is going very well. That was launching in June 2018, the 14th of June 2018. And now we are 2.5 years with this mainnet. And this mainnet is bad. No, this mainnet is good. There is a lot of application built on top. After that, the EOS holders, I am not an EOS holder, so I cannot speak. I am a developer. But the EOS holder, they want to have their money, it's clear. maybe they are disappointed because they don't know when it will come. So I have an advice. All your token, make a slip, come in 3 months, and there will be something. Because if you are every day following and expecting that the money will come,
People, I mean, this is just, to me, this is just meaningless, like everything you're saying. So I'm not really getting any value out of this. So
I'll give you the too long didn't listen. Things are happening the next 3 months.
I don't know. Does anyone else agree?
Hold
Like,
strong
I've been
hands.
3 months for like 2 years. I mean, I'm not interested in 3 months. I mean, it was a good question, like the code that came out today. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about what's happening right now. The stuff that Ramon was talking about is a lot more interesting. You know, people that are on the ground building.
He's excited. He's seeing a community that's some of them a little bit down the dumps here lately, but I understand. Zach, what do we have left on the agenda we want to talk about? You want to pull that up real quick and see where we were? Now, while you're looking that up, I will put a shout out and say that Crypto Writer is now doing a podcast, trying to get a once a day out there on YouTube, and we're hopefully going to get out there on iTunes, etc. We're also looking for anybody that wants to provide a voiceover, some voice work. We're looking for some talent to get some other people involved and to read some of the content out there. And then finally, we haven't talked about this yet, but anybody that has or sees a need to translate, we may consider that as well. So reach out to Sean, reach out to Kenny, talk to me. We'll get you hooked up. What's next, Zach?
I mean, we've been going for like 2 hours. I don't think I have any must-have topics. We could always do another show. I think if anyone wants to speak, I mean, it's been the same 4 or 5 of us most of this time, so I don't want to hog too much more mic time if there's other people that want to kind of get some last words in.
Well, did you guys pick up on when the Larimer interview that Zach did? I mean, he pretty much gave away what the mining pool is for, which the purpose is to back this MSIG for wrapping Bitcoin on EOS. I mean, he couldn't say it, but if you put together everything he was saying, that was basically it. Because he was basically like, the only way to make the MSIG, as secure to benefit from the network hash rate of the Bitcoin network, you have to have something like around like 20% of the hash power or more of the mining pools, to basically reject blocks that have MSIGs that are not validated on the EOS network. So this is what I think they're doing. I think they're going to wrap all that Bitcoin that they purchased, or a large portion of it, and use their mining pool as a part of the security protocol to secure that wrapped Bitcoin. And that's probably related with the financial product that Bloomer was hinting at as well.
Yeah. So, I'm just going to take that soundbite of yours right there, and I'm going to go back and watch my Dan interview, and I'm going to make like a little Twitter clip for that. If all that checks out, which I can't say.
Well, Larimer, go back. I'm serious. Go back to
your
interview. He explained it. He said it a few times. He also, I think it was on Twitter, or it might have been the interview that you did after B1 June. But yeah, he's explained this concept a few times.
Yeah, that Bitcoin mining, man, it's always just...
Go back through his history on Telegram.
Yeah, there is all the video of Dan Larimer. If you hear all the video that he has done, you understand what he wants to do. He's with us. It's clear.
He says stuff. He probably gets in trouble a lot behind the scenes.
When we did the live stream, there was no less than 10 people from Block 1 watching at the seats, getting ready to like put out fires or like release information if he released it, and they weren't ready to release it, and they were just they were watching on eggshells.
But the concept basically is their mining pool can reject blocks that contain a transaction that they don't like.
Well, did you see that some I forget what node it was, one of the Bitcoin mining pools said like they were going to blacklist certain accounts from transacting. And then there's new regulation coming out that's, it sounds like they're trying to make it almost illegal for Ethereum miners to process stablecoin transactions if they regulated stablecoins and required a money transmitter license. Like it all probably ties into this.
Yeah, and also Bloomer. Yeah, I mean, Bloomer said that. I mean, I remember he's mentioned on Twitter a few times that he has BSV, or right. Yeah. So, and they're all about, you know, pro compliance, or, you know, they have that whole rhetoric that you're talking about as well. So I don't know if this involved.
I mean, I think the thing that led to the most recent like Bitcoin dip was whenever Brian Armstrong from Coinbase put out that tweet thread about the mandatory AML for blockchain. Any non-custodial blockchain wallet would have to be like claimed or some KYC thing, and that scared the shit out of people. But it seems like if that regulation were to go through, like obviously not everyone's going to love it, but it does kind of put EOS in a position that they could slap on that identity layer. That seems like it's been part of the plan from day one. And in that tweet thread, I saw Ian Grigg talking about it. And he was one of the Block One OGs building out this system. And he said, like, this was something everyone's been anticipating. It's just, if it happened soon, like before the Trump administration leaves, it would happen about 2 years earlier than anyone anticipated. But it's something that everyone in the industry is anticipating, is like a mandatory like AML on non-custodial wallets.
Yeah.
That's going to make it easier for all the institutions to come in though. So
that's where EOS, so EOS is the public network. You have all of these institutions on their private blockchains that are hashing to mainnet. But if they want to transact between each other, their transactions happen on the public network. To go from institution to institution, or from bank to bank, or exchange to exchange, it happens on the public network. That's the purpose.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyone else?
Yeah.
Anything dying to get off your chest, guys? Been doing this for a long time. We could do it again sometime.
So, John, you were talking about that mining thing. A lot of people keep doubting that anything's going to go on mainnet. Just to clarify, do you think Dan was talking about the mining rig back there then going to EOS mainnet at some point, or would it to be a private EOS IO?
I mean, this is pure speculation, right? But if they're making their own exchange, from what Brendan explained, it sounded kind of like almost like a community owned exchange where everyone gets a cut of the fees or something like that.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that sounds like it would be a private chain, but in order to get liquidity, it would need to be, you know, properly connected with other chains, right?
Is it just about liquidity, or is it about not being centrally controlled? Because I think Libra had some issues with being everything centrally controlled by Facebook. Would a private EOS IO chain have the same limitations, which would push them out onto either something like EOS, or they have to launch something else, which is basically doing the same thing as EOS?
The thing with a private chain is that you have to have inroads and outroads. That's where the public networks come in. You can't just build in a silo on a private network. That'd be like building the internet on a LAN. Like if you don't have access to the World Wide Web, like you're just on your own little island. Like there has to be connections. Like that's where the private blockchains connecting to a mainnet makes sense. Like or a public network. It doesn't have to be mainnet. But you could have a private chain that still has bridges and connections to the mainnet.
And this is accountable to do so.
The EOS. So you might see EOS.
Someone's
doubts
talking
about
breaking up.
EOS is going to be just left out of the loop. Oh, sorry. I think people are concerned that EOS is out of the equation, but there's clearly that's the obvious candidate to be used in many of these use cases.
Yeah, I try to hold back my expectations because I've been overly speculative on a lot of things, thinking everything was going to happen with EOS. And it's kind of like, at this point, I I'm hesitant to always believe that everything's going to happen on the EOS mainnet. It's all going to tie in somehow. I don't think everything will tie in. I think EOS IO is its own business model, but I think there are a lot of tie-ins for public networks, and a lot of it has to do with these private chains communicating with each other. I just don't see many other ways to do it, especially if you're talking about value being transferred. I don't know. I'm rambling.
I've been surprised that we haven't seen more IBC, like native system level IBC between all EOS IO chains, which if you asked me like a year ago, I'd be like, yeah, that seems like it would be pretty high priority. And, based on the white paper and other things, that seems like EOS is designed, like EOS IO, the way the data is structured in the blocks is designed in such a way that you can do that. And Boss built it, based on, a blog post from Larimer, but their solution is not, it's not 100% there, but it's pretty freaking close. So I was really surprised that we just haven't heard, all they've talked about is like Bitcoin IBC and that's it, so now
how many applications have you seen that require parallel processing and more than like 6,000 transactions per second? Like you hear about voice. Dan dropped some hints about the FinCEN product where it sounded like each order book would be its own blockchain. Whenever he was talking to, I think, one of the Shintai developers that came up on Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
But besides those applications, which they do have an IBC between public or private, maybe a public-private combination. I don't know if they could do public-public, but how many is there a demand for that? Like, is that like we get this IBC, if it's base layer IBC and everyone's able to talk to each other and it's great. Is there really a use case for that yet? Exactly. Like, are we missing out on anything?
Just the ability to seamlessly like move tokens and NFTs between chains, would be nice. Like obviously it's hard to put a number on how valuable that is, but the idea that you could, for example, build an application that runs on EOS, but then use Telos or Wax for your other contracts where RAM is cheaper. And then the data that's stored on these other chains could be trustlessly swapped, like cached into EOS, when it's needed or whatever, to save costs and scale a decentralized application. We can get along without it, and we have all these different solutions, but they all have, various security performance trade-offs, and because they're not like system level, people don't know if they can trust them and all these kinds of things. So I don't know, to me personally, it feels like maybe it was a missed opportunity.
But it's more than just performance scaling, having multiple chains or IBC or joining together separate communities. I would imagine use cases like for voice, for example, they might want to have one of the chains where they want to be able to prune off certain parts of the blockchain, because anything that goes onto the blockchain is there forever. But if you have private data or identifiable data on there, eventually you might need to delete that. So there's a use case there to have IBC, but there's a very important use case to be able to prune or delete or remove things from there, including from the blockchain logs. So there's IBC, but not necessarily data storage.
Yeah, that makes sense for having some chains be private, just hashing. You can only see the hash. You don't know what the data is. And then some of them being more public. That makes sense. The other thing that's not really talked about is working groups within Block One in the community. I don't know how many there are, that I'm not privy to all of them, but it's been made public that there's some sort of privacy working group going on with Block One and some community teams. I could probably guess who they are, but has anyone else heard of any other working groups beyond the privacy working group? No, guess I'm the only one. I don't know that much about it, so I'm not going to talk too much.
You mean the privacy for enterprise?
Yeah, I think it's probably for enterprise based on the people.
Yeah, because Hyperledger has that. Mm-hmm. So there's thinking that Block One is probably looking at their competitors in the enterprise blockchain space and seeing, what do we not have that they do have? I think EVM was one of them, right? That they felt like that was missing when they were having their talk. So that's why they they sponsored the community to do that, which I felt was a really cool program. They should do that more, right? Like put up bounties for the community to build stuff for EOS.
Yeah, I said this, I forget who, when I had my interview with Bart, like I would love to see, I know it's COVID, so it's hard. They did a hackathon for the COVID hackathon, but man, as soon as this stuff's over, I feel like we need just like some baller ass hackathon event, man. Like some global conference, hackathon, everything tied together, and that would be amazing. But Dan mentioned at one point like an X Prize like contest where it's kind of like a longer hackathon where it's like many teams fighting for like some giant prize to solve. Like, are any of you guys familiar enough with X Prize to actually explain what it is? Because I'll probably fuck it up if I try. It's something that Netflix did. No. But I don't know. It's kind of like a longer term hackathon where everyone's trying to solve the same problems, but the prize is just so big that multiple like highly skilled teams are willing to put a lot of skin in the game to solve some of the like world's biggest problems. Like Netflix did it to, I think, optimize their suggestion algorithm. Like there was like 20 different teams across the world all fighting for this like multi-million-dollar prize to make the absolute best, most accurate suggestion algorithm that could possibly be made for Netflix. Like, and that would be something cool for EOS IO. I don't know what the game-changing problem would be that they're trying to solve, but maybe maybe it could be the IBC, maybe it could be something bigger. I don't know. But I think that was something that Dan had in mind with EVM contest. It's just the execution didn't quite look like that. Like they announced it, it was quiet for a couple weeks, and Said solved it, and then a couple more teams quietly solved it, and then Block One chose the winner, and then Talos deployed it, and we haven't seen anything since with EVM. So, what does anyone have an opinion on that? On like what's up with EVM? Like it seems like no one's really adopted it, and it seems like if you're going to migrate a DApp and use the EVM, you're better off just rewriting the software anyway.
I think that was the general consensus.
Yeah. I mean, no one in EOS IO wants to write Solidity, and no one in the Ethereum space wants to run their code on EOS IO.
Yep.
Right. So,
Sucks,
yeah. And it's like, why don't you just rewrite it into C++ if you really want to run it on EOS? That's probably much better. So, yeah, but you know, for enterprise or whatever, they're like, oh, well, we were using this enterprise Ethereum thing. How do we run our enterprise blockchain thing on EOS? Oh, well, here's, you know, a solution we have for you there. I don't know if companies are actually using that or not. I guess there's demand for it.
I haven't seen it or heard about it.
Yeah. So
was it more of a sort of an ego project to be able to?
I think it was. Dan like said a long time ago, you could run the entire Ethereum blockchain in a single smart contract. There's like this big famous like meme quote. And I think it was more or less Dan with a chip on his shoulder. That's why he put this out, because Dan told me about this idea he had for a big bounty back last November when I was in Blacksburg for the Bloxburg conference. Dan said he had some big idea for $1 million bounty for something. And that's what I think turned into the $200,000 Ethereum bounty. I think it was just kind of, I don't want to call it an ego thing, but just just proving that you could run like an entire blockchain in a contract.
Yeah, Ethereum has all these ZK rollup scaling solutions. There might be 6 by now, and you know, based on similar concepts but with various trade-offs. You know, so it makes sense that you could see like an EOS IO chain running EVM as a scaling solution. But I think there's still a lot of work that has to be done in order for that to actually be usable. And it seems like no one cares or no one wants to put in the work to make it happen. So I guess there's no interest there.
So you can't really run ZK rollups. You can't run that on EOS, even with an EVM, because they're so computationally intensive. There are limitations to what EVM can do, and stuff like ZK rollups is one of them. But you just brought up something I mentioned a couple weeks ago. Like we saw what happened with Ethereum in the summer whenever all the gas prices went crazy. We saw what happened with the CryptoKitty stuff. I think that's what we're going to see again. Like we're at the early stages of a bull market. And hopefully it goes for years. Hopefully never stops, but realistically should go at least for a year. And there's going to be a time when Ethereum's just going to grind to a halt again. Even if it's still running, it's going to be so expensive to run. And the solutions for all of these DeFi projects, they're all looking at these layer 2 solutions on Ethereum. But the biggest issue with the layer 2s on Ethereum is that they lose one of the biggest superpowers of Ethereum DeFi is the composability.
Yeah.
The composability between applications, the fact that you could create a flash loan. We talked about flash loans at the very beginning of this conversation. It's basically cramming a whole bunch of transactions into a single transaction to make it all happen in one. Whenever you start moving to different layer 2s, you lose the ability to have that composability. If all of the Ethereum applications have to move to layer 2s, one, they're all going to move to different there's some big ones. There's ZK rollups, there's optimistic rollups, and then there's a few like lesser known ones, XDAI. None of them are interoperable with each other. Even the same ones aren't interoperable. An optimistic rollup project can't, they have no IBC or whatever you want to call it, communication with other optimistic rollup projects. So as soon as the network starts congesting on Ethereum again, there's going to be two options. You're either going to have to pay the piper and pay in these exorbitant fees to continue using Ethereum DeFi with the composability that you're used to, or you're going to have to move to a layer 2, which is going to lower the transaction cost. It's going to increase throughput, but you're going to lose all of the composability across the different dApps in the ecosystem.
Yeah.
So when that happens, EOS with a layer 1 that can scale faster than any other chain out there, it's just, and we're building up all of this foundational infrastructure, all of these swaps, the EOS Nation stuff, the stuff like the Gravy train with like automated arbitrage and things like the dApp account DAO and all this stuff being built. It's going to be primed and ready. We got EOS Finex, we've got P tokens, we've got whatever Block One's financial product is. Hopefully it ties in with EOS somehow. It's just going to be primed and ready. And I think that there's a good chance that good things are going to happen in 2021. And like, it's impossible for Ethereum to not like suck. I don't like you when you lose the composability between the applications, like, yeah, you still got a bunch of money in there, but the superpower is that you could do all of this stuff and make them work together. And that's something that we haven't really seen from EOS yet. We don't see projects that are completely unaffiliated with each other, integrating with each other. Like we're seeing it with YFI on Ethereum. Like they're just like, I don't even know what you call them. They're not mergers and acquisitions, but they're basically like, they're combining developer talents and skills and basically forming like a singular like vision and roadmap that aligns the roadmaps of multiple DeFi projects that they could all work together. And we're not really seeing that on EOS, and you are seeing it on Ethereum. But the problem is that on Ethereum, you're not going to have composability once it gets congested again. And when the congestion happens and it doesn't stop.
Yeah. And so, the shards and the ETH2 concept, the kind of
the shards don't communicate either.
It's going to be a whole, it's going to be the exact same problem. And everyone is going to be on whatever shard Uniswap is on. So all the other shards are going to be like, empty suburbs or whatever. Everyone's going to be in the city. So.
Yep. So that's all going to happen. Like I have no doubt about it. It's going to happen. It's just how long is it going to take the migrations to happen? Other chains like EOS, Polkadot, Solana, and all these other chains. Like how long is it going to take for the migrations to happen? And when they do, which ones are they going to choose and why? And I think if things continue to develop on EOS, Block One keeps putting out kick-ass code. Like I expect I was expecting EOS IO 3.0 to come out this year. I thought that was part of what was supposed to come out. So if it's not now, then I would assume it's going to come out at some point in 2021. And who knows what kind of goodies that's going to include. So I think 2021 is going to be a good year, but it's still going to be a process. People are going to have to, for an ETH major application to be willing to migrate to EOS, it's going to have its like kind of back to a corner, I feel like, but it could happen.
What about, we keep looking at ETH and how they do DeFi and everyone gets profit and everything like that. That makes sense on Ethereum because all the transactions are expensive. But because EOS is virtually free and fast, there's a whole universe of dApps which no one's really even tapped into yet or hasn't even scratched the surface that could really open up to true mass adoption in the same way the iOS App Store and everything exploded. But we keep wanting to replicate things we see on Ethereum instead. But
I agree 100%. Think about on Ethereum, it's almost like a prisoner's dilemma. For all any coin that you've mined on Ethereum, you have this like dilemma of like, you want to take profits, but to take profits is going to cost you like $10. So you got more small hodlers because they have to, because they can't even take a profit if they want to. Whereas on EOS, it seems like everyone just dumps their mining profits, and it's because they can. So it's like you can't try to tackle the problems in the same way because it is different. I've seen that. So I agree with that. Some other differences.
They also, what's interesting is governance, like chain governance on Ethereum is much different because you have to pay. Oh, is someone talking?
No, they just need to mute.
So there's these off-chain voting solutions for a lot of Ethereum projects where you sign with your Ethereum key, but you don't broadcast it to the network. And that's, to us on EOS, we're just like, why would you do that? It costs you like nothing to put it on chain, so we might as well put it on chain, right? So yeah, we're super spoiled on this chain, and I hope that the rest of I don't even care if the rest of the blockchain ecosystem kind of realizes that, because this technology, it's designed to scale outside of the blockchain echo chamber, right? We're trying to build real applications for real people. So it's like entertaining, and there's kind of like the sports, the kind of like our team versus their team tribalism kind of thing going on, but it's really just a distraction, to be honest.
Yeah, we're playing a different game. Like things like Pummel, is it PUML? Like that's
yeah, the sports.
Is that on? I think that's on EOS, or is it on EOS IO?
They have a token on EOS.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's tracking your fitness and all these sorts of things, and all these other apps like actual microtransactions, which we all raved about with Bitcoin many years ago, is actually possible on EOS. Like small transactions.
Absolutely.
Last week there was some issue with EOS where I can't explain it. So multi-command single transactions were failing. They're either making a profit or they were failing, and they were stopping other transactions going through. And has that been resolved?
No, so that's a feature. Well, someone was spamming the network and kind of making some sort of exploit out of that. But with an EOS IO transaction, like, have you ever seen like the transactions like on some of the arbitrage where it's like 30, if you look at the traces on a block explorer, it's like 31 different like smaller transactions packed into a single one?
Oh.
So on EOS IO, whenever you make a transaction like that, say you have 31 steps to the transaction, your transaction will walk through every single step along the way, like through the API node, not on chain. But as soon as it hits a spot, like in this case, it's not profitable, like with like how Eve described the flash loan or an arbitrage trade. As soon as it's calculated that the trade's not profitable, the transaction just fails and it never shows up on the blockchain. Is that what you're talking about? That's a kind of like a feature to save computational resources of the network. It's only really affecting the API nodes, which you could have many of.
You did I saw the video with you and Eve, or of the EOS and Eve earlier on today talking about that. But I guess my question is that feature a weak point? Is that an attack vector? If, as per last week, people were able to bring the network to a halt by
whatever it was.
I'm not technical enough to know. So.
That's one of the best features of EOS. Like the DApp network relies on that feature. Like whenever you get that failed transaction, there's basically like kind of like an internal like error message handler. And that's actually like flips on the switch to use a DSP instead of a block producer endpoint. So like there's a lot of other cool stuff that's built on top of that feature, including the flash loans that Eve described last week or the other day.
Can it be misused by others? Can it be misused by others to bring the chain to a halt, as happened last week?
Should be patched.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
How do you patch that? Question.
Well, what was happening was, basically like when you submit a transaction to a node, it runs the transaction to make sure that it's valid. If it doesn't fail, if it's a block producer and it doesn't fail,
it tries to put it in a block. So the bug that was resolved was that when it was run speculatively before it was put in a block, it was successful. But when they tried to put it in a block, it was an infinite loop or something like that. That's my understanding of that.
And that's been sorted out by the patch that's taken place.
The patch fixed it. I don't think they've done like summary of what the issue was. We just know that they fixed it. Like, I don't know if we'll ever get all the answers.
That's the level of detail I need. So that's cool.
Yeah, it's fixed. And the exploiter, he was more white hat than black hat for the fact that he was like kind of like taunting. All he really wanted was 1, a bounty, and 2, to talk to Dan Larimer. Those were his 2 requests.
That was great.
So it was the best case scenario. I think every time these exploits are pointed out and they get patched, it makes the network stronger.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, fellas, is it time? I'll sit here all night, but
it's midnight.
Anyone?
Something that I love, beside the EOS IO ecosystem, is that we have this DApp network. But I don't know if this is the place to speak about the DApp network. But for me, it's just abstract layer where the developer is comfortable to develop, because it is not directly with the operating system, because the EOS mainnet for me is like an operating system. And if you are developing directly in front of the operating system, you will be a little bit crazy as a developer. So when you have an abstract layer middleware like the DApp network, for me, it's just a perfect solution, but that's maybe another call. But I love this entire, for me, the DApp network on top of the EOS IO ecosystem and communicating with other blockchain protocol like Ethereum, like Bitcoin, and Solana, or other Polkadot.
I'm just chomping at the bit to talk about the DApp network more. Yeah. But I'm waiting for Edge DSPs, man. It's
Edge DSPs.
Oh my dude, I don't want to.
I don't know a lot about that, but it's just.
I'm excited for it.
I
can't wait to right now. There's all kinds of different DSP services and packages, but with Edge DSPs, it's just one universal service. It's like buying prepaid cell phone minutes and you get everything. And it's just, that's a whole other episode.
Yeah, exactly.
We've gone too long.
Also something we say we need more communication. We need more, be together, build together the trusted web, like said, for example, Sebastian van der Lans, build the trusted web together. So build EOS together. So we have to make maybe more education also. You do a fantastic job, Zach. You are fantastic on this side. You are merging the troops. You are fantastic for that. And yeah, if we do more, let's say meetups, workshops. Myself, I do workshops. Yeah, I love that. So I have planned 6 workshops on the next year, but another call for that. But I love to do to educate, and maybe we have to explain the things. Sometimes the things are explained a little bit too much into the detail, and for some people that have I would say no experience with the code, they will not make the neural link, the link. They will not understand exactly what we speak. So sometimes we have maybe to be a little bit more abstract, explain the thing more vulgarization. I don't know like how to say that in English. Make the things more simple, abstract to explain to the large public what is exactly the EOS IO ecosystem, and that we have this fantastic EOS mainnet in the center, in the middle, that is the radio station. We have to explain that to like a movie, that the people understand that this is not only value monetary, there are also societal and technological dimension, not only the economical dimension. So everyone, we have our value. So maybe we have to be more, more general when we speak.
That's what I try to do. I mean, I'm technical enough that I understand a lot of this stuff, but I'm not technical enough to explain it to other people. So a lot of what I try to do whenever I like have technical guests is I try to have a conversation in a way that I understand, because if I understand, I assume the audience can understand too.
Exactly.
And it's very important to have that non-technical lens, because sometimes you just get lost in the weeds and you don't see the big picture because it's just too technical for most people's minds to wrap their mind. The concepts are too abstract to wrap their minds around.
Yeah, you do a fantastic job on this side, and there are a lot of people in the EOS IO ecosystem that do each and every day a big work on to educate the mass. But yeah, it's clear there are a lot of disappointment by the community. I understand myself that there is a disappointment. But
a lot of it's due to price. Honestly, like you turn price around and sentiment's just gonna be a complete 180, and everyone's gonna be ranting and raving about how it's the best technology, best this, best that. We'll see it. Hopefully sooner rather than later. We've all been waiting, but like that.
You will not be here if you don't believe to EOS. You are believing in EOS. I feel that.
I believe. I've believed this whole time. All right, guys, we keep having people pop off this call. I think we're going to end it with a go EOS. If you've got a drink, we could do a toast. But I think it's time, guys. Unless anyone has any last words, I think we're going to end this on a 3, 2, 1, go EOS. All right?
Yep.
3, 2, 1.
Go EOS!
Oh, my wife.